Hey y'all, welcome back to Whiteboard Wednesday. And today we are getting into a topic that is not discussed a lot, but I think is very important. And this is that not everything is a safe space. And so this topic came up because as I've been reflecting, listening, observing, I have noticed that therapy still has a stigma, especially in Black and Brown communities, despite more Black and Brown individuals going into the mental health field. And so often when I hear, in sessions out in public, on social media, wherever it may be, is, I don't need therapy. I should be able to talk to my people. Or why would I pay a stranger or tell a stranger, my business when I have family and friends? But the thing is, not everything or everyone is a safe space. And so, y'all know I am a big girly on definitions and language. And so I had to include the definition of a safe space. And so this refers to a place or environment where individuals feel emotionally or psychologically secure, free from judgment, harassment, criticism, or harm. And so oftentimes we call spaces safe that actually aren't safe. And so that may be due to the presence of judgment. That may be to the presence of criticism or harm. You just don't feel like your business is going to stay within that circle. Or, there have been times where maybe someone has said something that wasn't supposed to be repeated and it got back to you. Or maybe, you posted something, it got screenshot, and you go to school the next day, or you show up to the space the next day and everybody's looking at you because you shared something on your close friends that somebody decided to screenshot and share with everyone else that wasn't a part of that group. And so we can often be put in situations that are unfortunate and be very, very hurt and harmed when we call spaces safe that actually aren't safe. So this can look like, you posting something on social media. I have seen more recently people opening up and disclosing intimate personal details that are going on in their lives. And so, you can post that pain and that struggle on social media, but maybe it gets screenshot, or maybe you open up to, your lash tech, your nail tech, your hairstylist, your esthetician, whoever it may be, but you don't know who they know. And so now your business can be out there being spread to who knows. We've all seen those videos where the stylist or the barber happens to take a peek at their client's phone and it's the person that they're supposed to be messing with. So, situations like that, you really never know. You think that's a safe space. You think this person might not know the person that you're talking about, and they might, and that information might get back to the person maybe that you were talking about when you had no intent of that happening. Or you tell a friend what's going on, and then somehow your business, circles its way and finds its way back to you. Or maybe, you are struggling and you are religious. And so you go to your religious establishment to seek spiritual guidance. And maybe you confess, hey, like I'm struggling with, depression, or I'm struggling with suicidality. But all of a sudden, you are judged and cast a sinner, deemed to hell because you might be struggling with suicidality. Or the big one I see often, that people have a difficult time realizing and recognizing that this group of people isn't always safe as family. So I often hear, we say, oh, we should be able to talk to our people. We should be able to talk to each other. That we don't need to pay someone. We just need our village. And yes, in theory, that is true. We should be able to turn to each other. We should have our village. However, in reality, when it comes down to it, when we do oftentimes bring up, our trauma, our emotional struggles, our mental health, we are often dismissed. We are told that we're being dramatic. We're called crazy. We are met with shame. Sometimes we are spiritualized, and a lot of times we don't talk about that. That silencing is heavy, especially in the Black community. And so when we are met with family and our family is our safe space, they're telling us we should be able to come to each other. But when we do, we're met with that judgment. We're met with that criticism. We're met with, being abused and talked down to, whatever it may be. we isolate ourselves, we shut down. We start to believe our feelings are too much. And so we lose out on the opportunity to feel seen, to be understood, to be validated. Because the spaces that we try to be honest in and to show up authentically and vulnerably and the most raw version of ourselves, they actually weren't safe. And so that's why I always emphasize, like, we have to be so mindful of the language that we are using. And so once your truth leaves your mouth in whatever space it may be, you might not realize it's a right or wrong space. You cannot control where it lands. But the thing about therapy is you can. And so therapy is a safe space because it is confidential. That means it is kept between you and the therapist unless under certain circumstances. It is intentional and it is bound by law. So we have HIPAA. And so let me be clear though, therapy is safe, but it's not always soft. And so that means that your therapist is not always going to co-sign and coddle you. But it will mean that your therapist is not going to judge you. It will mean that your therapist is not going to silence you and tell you not to talk about something that is important to you and who you are. Your therapist won't tell you, or shouldn't at least tell you, these things, shame you for what you're feeling. But they will, ask you the hard questions and the real questions. They will hold you accountable, and they will help you look at the why behind the patterns, not just that surface level behavior. And so, some differences that we see in an unsafe space versus therapy is, we are maybe met with opinions, judgments, and projections that maybe we didn't ask for. Or, there is the ability for gossip and screenshots in these unsafe spaces, because, people don't understand, hey, I want this to stay between me and this person or this group of people. There can be surface level advice. There can be criticism of who you are, not maybe what you're doing. And there's a difference between criticism and feedback. Feedback is constructive. Criticism is meant to tear you down. And oftentimes unsafe spaces can be dismissive or avoidant. Whereas in therapy, like I said, there's that confidentiality by law. There is that neutral, grounded feedback that you'll receive. And a lot of the times therapists will ask, or, you guys have that rapport to be able to have that feedback between the two of you. There's oftentimes deep reflection and exploration. There is support around how you're functioning. And then there's validation and tools for change. And so, we often hear that, therapy is just talking, but it's not. It is being seen fully for who you are and what you have gone through and what you have come from. It is being held safely, and it's being challenged to grow without the fear of it being thrown in your face, without the fear of being misunderstood, and without the fear that a mistake or a rift in the relationship will ruin that relationship. There will be repair, and that repair in the therapeutic relationship can be directly translated into maybe repair in other relationships in your life. And so I want to make it very, very clear. I am not saying do not talk to your people. I talk to mine all the time. I have my own therapist, and I also confide in my girlfriends, my partner, and my mom. But I also know the limits in those relationships. And so this isn't about choosing therapy instead of your community. It's about being more mindful about who and what we consider a safe space, because our language matters, access matters, and protection matters. And so different spaces serve different purposes. And having more than one safe space means taking care of your mental health in real life. So therapy can be one of those spaces where your truth won't be twisted, where your feelings aren't too much, where your healing isn't seen as a weakness, but only if you let it. And for those that love to say, just go pray about it, we don't need therapy. For one, where does it say that in the scripture? And for two, if God did not want us to use therapy, he wouldn't have given people the gift and the capacity to hold space for others, to be able to sit with people as they, discuss the horrors and the traumas that maybe they faced in their life, and to be met with non-judgment, and to be met with empathy and unconditional positive regard. And so he wouldn't have made healing possible through connection, education, and intention. And so if this resonated with you, don't just sit with it, do something with it. Check with yourself. Who are you calling a safe space and why? And so, like I always say, y'all, please be so mindful of the language that we're using, of the people and the things and the places that we are calling safe spaces to us. Because, like I said, the language that we use sets expectations. And so, if we expect this to be a safe space and that safety is betrayed and ruined, we have a problem. I will see you guys in the next Whiteboard Wednesday. Bye.